Hello, my little ponies. This is Darklight here, and today we will be doing a reading of Appleskins by 3 Roni Pie. This was a request from DCP Brony, and so why don't we jump in and see how dark this fiction is. It was a beautiful day in Equestria. The sun was shining its warm rays down, and the sweet scent of apple pie wafted on the warm breeze. Rarity was putting the final touches on a dress she had made for Applejack. Applejack wanted an apple-themed dress. How original, Rarity thought, for the upcoming Apple Fair in Canterlot in a few days. It was always hard to make a dress that suited Applejack, and that was down to the fact that she never wanted anything too girly. The dress had to be perfect, no room for any sort of error. She had stayed up for the night, making the dress as perfect as it could be, and now her mane was all frizzled, and her fur messy. But that didn't matter, because she was doing it for one of her best friends. Applejack had become a close friend over the years, so it stood to reason that everything had to be perfect. What made the dress making even more stressful was the fact that Hoity-Toity would be there to judge dresses made by other fashion designers from all over Equestria. So the stakes were high if she wanted to impress him. It was finished, and what a gorgeous beauty it was. Oh, Applejack, I just know you're going to love this dress, Rarity said to herself. She took the dress over to Sweet Apple Acres. Journey there was perilous. There were so many ways the dress could get ruined, tripping and dropping it in the dirt, some pony accidentally trampling it. She would have to be extremely careful not to harm this beautiful piece of art. Rarity finally arrived at Sweet Apple Acres. Applejack walked over to her. "Hi, all, Rarity. Have you finished my costume?" Applejack asked her. "Yes, dear, I have, and it is magnificent. I've worked for days trying to make it just perfect so as to match your style, Applejack, but I think I have captured your essence just perfectly," Rarity replied, showing Applejack the dress. Rarity watched Applejack's reaction carefully as her eye eyed the dress up and down. Rarity could see a hint of disappointment in her face. "You don't like it, do you?" sighed Rarity. "Oh, no, I do. I love it." Applejack's face contorted as she tried to hide the fact that she didn't like the dress. Rarity felt a feeling well up inside her. A feeling she had never felt before. What is it? A mixture of dread, hate, anger. Applejack had thrown her hard-spent effort back in her face. She didn't care. She never cared about fashion. She didn't give a buck. She had never felt this way before. She couldn't believe she was thinking like this. It made her sick to her stomach. How could she be thinking like this? But she couldn't get over the fact that she had been up for almost a week straight, designing and sewing the dress together, and now she couldn't bear it. The feeling, the anger, and the rage built up until she thought she couldn't hold it much longer. Then something snapped. Somewhere deep down inside her, a part of her sanity crumbled, like her hope that Applejack would accept the dress. And then it was over. The feeling subsided and everything was back to normal. Well, not quite. "Rarity, are you all right?" Applejack inquired, looking a bit worried. "Oh, yes, I'm just fine." "It's okay, Applejack. There are still a few more days, and I could easily fix this dress before then. Oh, yes, everything is fine," she said with a little mad laugh. Rarity turned around and walked quickly back to her boutique. "Applejack doesn't like her dress. One I spent days creating. The one I spent days sewing, stitching, designing. Well, she doesn't like it. I'll make her like it, Rarity mumbled to herself on the way back. Applejack couldn't sleep. She had a bad feeling about Rarity. She couldn't get over the look on Rarity's face as she discussed Applejack's reaction to the dress. Something hadn't seemed right as she left. She seemed different. She tossed and turned, trying to get comfortable to get some sleep. A floorboard creaked behind her. Before she could do anything, a hoof placed itself quietly but firmly on her mouth. "You will like it," a soft, menacing voice whispered into her ear. Applejack struggled to push it off, but there was considerable strength in that arm. She pushed hard and broke free, but as she scrambled out of bed, she caught in her blanket, banging her head on the floor, and everything went black. When Applejack came to, she found herself in Rarity's boutique. Moon shined brilliantly through an open window and onto her face, and a slight breeze made the curtains flip quietly. She tried to move, but she was nailed down to a bench. Suddenly the harsh pain hit her. It throbbed in her hoofs like knives, needles there were under her skin. Applejack tried to move, but every time she did, the nails cut deeper and deeper into her legs, causing her to wince, and a small trail of blood to drizzle down her hoofs and onto the floor. She tried to call out through the pain, but she couldn't. Her mouth was stuck shut and she couldn't open it. It was her mouth. Her mouth. Panic rose in Applejack. She tried to open her mouth, but tightly sewn stitches prevented her from doing so. Although calling for help was useless, she still screamed and screamed. She screamed as loud as she could, but the only result was a muffled cry in a hoarse throat. Tears welled in her eyes as realization came over her. "Oh, darling, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. I was just putting Sweetie Belle to bed. I hope you don't mind me bringing you down here so late, but you simply must try this dress I made for you." Applejack craned her neck as far as she could and saw Rarity entering the room out of the corner of her eye. Her hair was frizzled, messed up, splotched of dirt and mud clung to her fur. Rarity would never let this happen to herself. Something was wrong with her. Bloodshot eyes peered at her through half light, filled with malice and dementia. Applejack struggled again to free herself, but the nails cut deeper into her. "Don't struggle, dear. You only make things harder for yourself," Rarity told her calmly. Now where did I put that dress?" Rarity walked over to one of her mannequins and took the dress off it. Applejack saw it was the one that Rarity had shown her earlier. Placing the dress carefully over Applejack, Rarity opened and drawer and pulled out something that glinted in the moonlight. Scalpel slowly came down to her eye level. Applejack tried moving away from the blade, but she couldn't. Sensing her distress at seeing the scalpel, Rarity decided to play a little game with her. "Oh, what a dear little scalpel this is. It's a shame I don't have time to sharpen it earlier," Rarity said teasingly to Applejack, inspecting the tool. "I hope it won't ruin the new dress I'm making. And this one will look just like you." She brought the blade back down again close to Applejack's throat and began running it ever so softly against her neck hair. As she began to slowly apply pressure, she could feel Applejack squirm, trying to keep it far away from the knife as possible. Her eyes widened with fear and panic, following the knife back and forth as Rarity played it across her neck. "Don't be frightened, Applejack dear. He only wants to play with you. she said softly in her ear. He's harmless, really. You know what his favorite game is? You don't? Well, I'll tell you. It's the cutting of skin. Oh, yes. What a wonderful feeling it is as you first apply a small amount of pressure. Not too much, just enough to stretch the skin tight. As you push harder, you can begin to feel the skin give way. Then through it goes, in slow tear through the soft and delicate sinew underneath. Rarity applied a more pressure to the scalpel again, just Applejack's neck. It's quite simple, really. All you have to do is push, and with that the blade found its way into Applejack's neck. A small drizzle of blood trickled across her throat and pulled next to her face. But she wasn't dead, nor was she going to die. Yet Rarity wanted her alive as much as Applejack wanted to live. Rarity slowly brought the knife down Applejack's body, slicing the flesh carefully. Applejack could feel the skin splitting and tearing as the small knife cut the flesh down her stomach, revealing the muscles and tendons underneath, her organs popping out as the tension of the skin held was released. She wanted to scream with pain and against, but nothing came out, nothing except a muffled, strangled gurgle. Rarity brought the knife down and around Applejack's legs. She pulled it out and examined the cut. Ah, yes, it seems my cutting skills haven't failed me. I can still slice anything I need, Rarity said quietly to herself. Using her magic, Rarity slowly rolled the skin back, carefully, as so not to rip it. Applejack could feel the pain as her skin was pulled back, pain like roaring lion barely kept at bay at the adrenaline filling her body. Sinews snapped as the flesh peeled off. She could feel nothing but blind anguish. Her body writhed as the skin was pulled off, contorting with nothing but raw, masculine, never-ending pain. She couldn't believe this was happening. Rarity would never do something like this. This must be a nightmare. She rode wave after wave of unending anguish. Then it all became too much and she blacked out. When Applejack came to, she was outside the town hall. The sun was just coming up. She felt cold and stiff. Last night, was it a dream? Or was it real? It couldn't have been. Rarity would never do that. Would she? Her throat felt hoarse and her mouth sore. Her body felt numb and strange. As she got guidely to her feet, something stretched at her ear. She lifted her hoof to brush it off, but it wouldn't go away. Applejack tugged at it, confused. But the moment she did, a jarring pain struck her shoulder. Craning her neck around, she saw the most disturbing sight she had ever had. Her skin, her brilliant orange fur that shone in the light, was replaced with a hideous mound of bloody red meat. It was a gruesome sight. Applejack threw up all over her hoofs, only now that she looked closely, they weren't really hoofs at all, but meaty, bony stubs, and the thing scratching her ear, she recognized that all too well. The dress. It was the dress Rarity had made for her. It had to come off. It had to, but every time she tried to tug it off, more pain ripped through her body. The dress was sewn to her muscles, her skin gone, replaced by a now hideous, bloody dress. Some pony screamed. Applejack looked up quickly and saw that Roselac had fainted at the sight of the gruesome pony and fallen on the ground. She rushed over to help Roselac, but just as she was about to reach her, she was knocked over by a powerful force. Regaining her balance, she looked over and saw that Twilight had stopped her. She looked scared, and there was a small crowd around her now. "Get away from her, whatever you are," Twilight yelled at Applejack. Applejack tried to reply, but all that came out was a dry gargle howl. "What is it?" a pony in the crowd had asked. "I don't know. I haven't seen anything like it in any of my books before," Twilight replied. Applejack tried to say anything, but got the same result as before. "Well, do something, anything," Ponies called out. Twilight cast a spell on Applejack, and she fell to her knees unconscious. She woke up under a cool shade of large trees somewhere in the everfree forest. Applejack tried to get up, found her legs were weak, her throat was sore, and now it was dry from lack of water. She saw something move in the shadow. It came out into the soft light, drifted between the emerald leaves. It was her, an exact mirror image, except this one had skin. The thing, whatever it was, looked exactly like her. The mirror. Applejack slowly walked towards her and looked down at her with instant blue eyes. "Hi, y'all," said Rarity's voice softly. Well, there you are. That is Appleskin. I will leave a link for it below, and I hope you will go check it out if you liked it. And this is Darklight, and I will leave you now to ponder this wonderful and dark tale.